Yes, guys, you know what time it is. It's your boy David at the Irish Hotspur, Ireland's #1 Spurs fan. And this evening, we bring you Tottenham Weekly. Joined by Jack, of course, the co-host. Jack, how are you keeping, my man?
Doing all right, Davo. Coming up with as many questions as I possibly can, and what probably is sort of, coming towards the end of the season where we're in that kind of limbo period between, what is, the time to be able to fix Spurs. In the summer, we actually get to sort of look at some of the hands-on things and how we can change Spurs. But now we're in that position where we're trying to get a bit ahead of ourselves. We're probably, thinking a bit ahead of time when it comes to the summer, but still some good sort of, debate topics still come up with. But usual crew here from We Are Tom TV in the form of Ben, and Ash Maddock is practically at this stage becoming a regular, so good to see him as well.
No, it's great to see the two boys, and of course we'll start off with Benji. Benji, how are you keeping, my man?
Yeah, as I say every time on here, my health is good, but even better now thanks to this guy on the right of me, Ashmatic. But things to do with football, not too good. Not too good at all.
Surprised you're not sick of me and Ashmatic by now. We always seem to be streaming together lately, so we do. Surprised you're not sick of the sight of us by now. But look, Ash,
Never,
how are you?
Mate. Never.
How are you keeping, Ash?
Yeah, man, I'm here, bro. That's what I can say. I'm here, man. Mental health is good. Physical health, not bad. And yeah, we move, man. That's what I can say. We move.
Yeah, definitely. But look, it's good to see that everybody is keeping well in general, aside football aside, Tottenham aside. But look, we've got plenty of talking points tonight. I'll just run through some of them there quickly so people know what we'll be speaking about. Spurs seeing a second choice for the Qataris if they fail to bid for Man United. Feyenoord looking to fend off Tottenham interest by offering big new contract to Arne Slot. Brendan Rodgers is extremely keen on the Tottenham job. Has Ryan Mason's chance of taking the job being crushed? More mistakes for Romero versus Aston Villa. Is Romero overrated by the fan base? Never. And then is Spurs' current situation a bad case of deja vu? So what we'll do is we'll get into it. We'll use everybody's time as best as we can because we know everyone wants to get off for the Champions League semi-finals. So we'll hand it over to Jacko to kick it off. Make sure you smash that like button. Make sure you smash that subscribe button. And feel free to get in a super chat at any stage with your point, with your questions, whether you agree, disagree with us, and the panel will have a good discussion on that topic. But Jacko, over to you, my man.
We're going to start with a little bit of kind of a warm-up, some news that has kind of just come out, basically, I think, as, the show was about to begin. And Spurs apparently are being seen as the second choice for the likes of the Qataris if they are to fail to buy Man United. I think that sort of deal is delaying, and it is maybe growing potential of the likes of them sort of maybe giving up on that sort of bid for Man United and actually turning towards the likes of Tottenham Hotspur. Ben, it's becoming a theme that Spurs are sort of the second choice for everybody when it comes to manager, when it comes to even which club they want to buy. But what do you make of maybe the fact that, right, Man United still haven't been bought yet, and the Qataris at some stage might grow a bit impatient, and they have been linked to us in the past?
Look, it's all very well and good being linked to all these kind of investment firms and Qataris and everyone else that we've been linked with. But at the end of the day, if ENIC don't want to sell, they ain't going to sell. They've got a cash cow at the moment. It is absolutely producing notes after notes after notes for them. So what I think is the case, if ENIC eventually do sell, I think Daniel Levy is going to do a Kenwright at Everton, and he's going to be like, with any sort of deal, I still want to be involved. I still want to be the chairman. I still want to run things over here. So I don't get excited at all when I hear any of this news anymore. As much as I would love something like this to happen, I think we've heard it all before with Tottenham and new owners and potential investment, and nothing seems to have materialized. So yeah, I'm getting myself excited, to be honest.
As a follow-up, though, Ben, do you feel like if the Qataris are finding it frustrating dealing with the Americans over at Man United, you think probably Daniel Levy might not be much of an easier person to deal with, I'd imagine.
Much worse. I mean, Daniel Levy is probably like the hardest guy to deal with in world football, never mind in the Premier League. So, look, if they're getting frustrated with the Glazers, I mean, Daniel, what hope do we have?
It's already hard enough to try to get a transfer from him. Imagine trying to buy his football club. Ash, exactly. Are you kind of tired of being the second choice in the case of Spurs?
Wow.
Because
you know what? That sounds like a song. Are you tired of being the second choice? Like, yeah, it's not a good look, is it? to be fair, Daniel was saying that I say Daniel like I know him. Daniel told me that basically Daniel Coy, sorry, I apologize. I stand corrected. Daniel was saying even if the Qataris were to take over, he would still want some type of control, or say so, or he would still want to be a part of the situation. So, like, for me, it's like, just make him the manager. Why not? Just you might as well, because he's not going nowhere. He's like, I'm not, like in that film, Wolf of Wall Street, and the guy's asked to like step down by the government. They're onto him, and he's like, I ain't fucking leaving. That is Daniel right now. I'm telling you, he's not going nowhere, bro.
Even if the pressure couldn't be greater on him. And I've mentioned this before, Ash, like, I think there's always been pressure on Daniel Levy from the likes of the fan base. I think he's always known that the fan base have not exactly seen eye to eye with him, but probably more so than ever. You're seeing Daniel Levy kind of being spoken about on Talk Sport. You're seeing him being spoken about on Sky Sports. Also, even sort of other sort of YouTubers that aren't even, Spurs related whatsoever, don't even care at all about Spurs, have been talking, I think, a lot these days sort of about Daniel Levy. He's just kind of been a bit of a sort of a, let's say, football wide sort of subject for everybody to talk about. Do you feel like now more than ever, though, he would be tempted by potential bids?
But no. But literally, like, what it is, it's hard. Like, you've got some members of the fan base that were like, they want a nice takeover. They want a takeover that is like, eco-friendly, feeding babies. Like, they don't want these oil merchants coming over and ruining our Tottenham. And so then it's like, you got sections of the fan base that might push back as well. They say like, no, we've got a green friendly, Tottenham going on, and all of a sudden we got these money men from the east coming in, and they're corrupted and they're gonna ruin it all. So it's I don't know how much of the percentage of the fan base that is, to be fair. So I'm not gonna lie to say like, it's gonna be a big kickback.
I think at this stage,
I would imagine that, at this stage, I'd imagine most fans would just kind of get on with it and just say, bring me, what's it called? The guy from Napoli, that winger, what's his face?
Qavisha.
Qavisha. Yeah.
Bring me Qavisha, please. And that'll keep everyone happy. Or
hopefully there's a Spurs fan in Tbilisi that can buy us out and bring over the mighty Kvaradona. But Dave, tired of being the second choice? It seems to be the case when it comes to managers, even people trying to buy Spurs, consistently the second choice. But like I kind of said to Ash, do you feel like now more than ever, though, again, with all the attention that really isn't going away from Daniel Levy, could he be more tempted?
Look, first of all, I'm sick of being second choice for everybody. As a fan, I believe we should be absolutely first choice for everybody. But when you've got other clubs who, have the history they do, who have the following that they do and stuff like that, aka Man United, you're always going to sort of be second best till them until you absolutely sort of trump them. You start competing with them, you're better than them, you start taking in trophies. That is the way of evening it out. But we're not at that level. And as for, look, would Levy and Enoch consider selling if a bid came in now? Look, I think if there was much more noise around them, I think they would. I think if there was a hell of a lot more noise around them, it was sort of made clear, and the money was right from the Qataris, I think he probably would end up considering selling. But on the other hand, I don't know. It's a hard one, Jack, because on the other hand, like, you got to look at it like, with all the stuff that's coming to the stadium, like the go-kart and all this other added stuff, the revenue that we're going to be bringing in is more and more and more. You build what they have to build, you're going to be bringing in more and more revenue from that, and football prices don't look like they're going to stall anytime soon. So with these guys being, especially Levy being an accountant and stuff like that, and investment groups and stuff, they're not going to sell until they maybe see the market prices sort of plummet, or they're looking like they're going to plummet, and then they'll get out. These guys are very, very calculated. That's why they're in investment groups. So it's a hard one, but I do think if people put enough pressure and enough noise on them in and around that bid, if it were to ever materialize, I do think you'd probably make them consider.
Do Jeff Ives even saying, remember when Abramovich came in to buy Spurs back in the day, and we were the first choice. Now we're the second choice, potentially, a good opportunity here. What I would say is Daniel Levy, I agree with Ash. I don't know if he's really ever really all that tempted or ever really all that swayed. But if you were to speculate it, I would say now more than ever, absolutely, because of the attention, because of also sort of the bad press that he is receiving. He's always getting bad press, I think, from the likes of the fans, but I think more so than ever, it's bigger media outlets, people with much more of an influence, I think, throughout sort of the football hemisphere that are talking about Daniel Levy and kind of consistently talking about him. He's sort of, like I said, he hasn't really escaped the airwaves, it feels like, in any sort of sense. Like, wasn't like it was for a few weeks that people were, talking about Levy and maybe his miscomings or some of his sort of his wrong decisions. Feels like I'm not kidding. I'm still tuning into Simon Jordan, debating some fan defending him, or I'm still tuning in to some sort of kind of update on this whole, like I said, crisis or whatever it may be at the likes of Spurs. And Daniel Levy hasn't exactly escaped, any sort of the blame when it comes to that crisis. And so I'm curious if there's a certain time when enough is enough. You're just sort of tired of being in the tabloids. You're tired of being in the papers. You're tired of being spoken about, really.
Well,
as
when
long
you see
as the money is coming in, there's no tired. As long as the money is coming in, you know what I mean?
You're not doing it for free, that's for sure. Yeah.
When you see what's happening though now in terms of media speaking out, players sort of in the squad speaking out like Harry Kane and people like that, you see ex-pundits starting to speak out all across the media. The media are actually starting to challenge Daniel Levy. It's a big flip from where it was 4 or 5 years ago under Pochettino, where everyone was hailing us. We were everyone's second favorite team. Everyone, was praising the way that Daniel Levy operated and that Tottenham operated. But with the amount of bad decisions that we've made since then, it's completely flipped 180 on its head. And it's sort of getting to where maybe Man United were at, where there was a lot of noise being made by the fans. Then the media started questioning. Then the pundits started hopping on and questioning this, that, and the other. Ex-players hopping on, questioning. You had players in the camp coming out and speaking out. You're seeing that sort of starting to materialize at Tottenham Hotspur. And once it gets to that stage, you see a lot of the Glazers, they want out. Could it be the same for Levy and ENIC, which you got to remember Levy and his family own 29.4% of ENIC. So I can see it getting like that. If the longer this goes on with everyone questioning what's going on at the club, the longer it goes on with us hiring and firing managers, director of football, massive high turnover of players, etc., it's going to get into one big mess where eventually it's actually going to cost them a lot more money to sort it out than what they'll want to spend. And then they'll have to maybe start considering to sell up. But look, the noise is around them. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, exactly right. Also, some other news here to chat about. Feyenoord looking to fend off interest from the likes of Tottenham Hotspur by offering Mr. Arne Slot a big new contract extension. Anybody who's very, happy about Arne Slot, I'm not sure, you guys in the studio, Ben, if you or Sim is maybe leaning towards Slot more than the other, but it kind of makes sense that Feyenoord would be sort of, attempting this because he seems to be kind of, you could say, probably Spurs' maybe number one, number two choice at the moment, you could say, maybe after Julian Nagelsmann has fallen through. So what do you make of this bit of news?
Well, I think it's such a mess. I don't even think we have a number one choice. I don't think we have a number one choice sporting director either. So it's like, how can you possibly think of bringing in a manager when you don't even know which direction you want to go in terms of sporting director? We were doing an update today with the sporting directors that have been linked with us, Pinto, the guy from Germany, and the guy from Brentford as well. And all three of them are completely different philosophies. So it's like when any manager comes to the door and he goes, all right, so what direction are we going in? Daniel Levy goes, well, we got this guy, all ready to come. Oh, but all three of them are completely different directions. So you can't sell anything to a manager right now in terms of bringing one in. So you need to bring in a sporting director. In terms of Arne Slot, I mean, I'm a big fan of Arne Slot. I think the job he's done in Holland is absolutely brilliant. To break up the Ajax PSV domination in the Dutch league is, it really is very impressive. And the way he's done it as well, won the league quite early, smashing everyone that comes in his path, also going far in Europe. So that shows his pedigree in Europe as well.
Yeah.
So I think, it would be a really good appointment, but in my opinion, we just can't start looking at managers until we know which direction we're going to go in with our sporting director. And I think the whole manager talk is a bit like, what's the point?
The more, though, that we continue to twiddle our thumbs, though, Ben, I feel like we're going to be paying the price for it, because if we're going to continue to drag our feet with this, I agree with you. A lot of people feel like the director of football should come in first because they're the most qualified to be leading sort of the managerial search. Right now, at the moment, it's no secret. It probably is Daniel Levy at the moment that's been leading this manager search and has been sort of picking out the names. But what we do want is someone else, of course, to be doing that. But the longer we sort of, like, we basically wasted a bunch of time with Nagelsmann, right? If it wasn't going to ever go through, then we find ourselves, right, where it's like, well, we seem to be picking the manager before the director of football in the Nagelsmann case. But now, since that has fallen through, we're going backwards, where now all of a sudden we're going for the director of football before we even consider, right, the manager in the first place. And I feel like that's now, it's just shown that we've wasted probably a good amount of days and a good amount of time. And now, where we only are, 30 days, like 20 days away from breaking the record again when it came to the Nuno saga, we're going to need to bring in a director of football and bring in a manager within the next 2 to 3 weeks before, we end up reaching that, 72 days, whatever it was, without a manager or so. So I'm a bit worried here, because it feels like maybe we just wasted a bunch of time kind of going after our first choice, ending up not getting him. Now, all of a sudden, we're stuck in this position again, and we only have so much time before Feyenoord start giving out contracts to Arne Slot, Ruben Amorim gets a contract extension, Postecoglou gets a contract extension, all that sort of stuff. You only have so much time.
Yeah, but Jack, it's not even just the last few months since Conte's got sacked is what we've been wasted. We've wasted the last 4 years at this football club. Literally since Pochettino got sacked, even before Pochettino got sacked, not doing that rebuild, wasted time. We've been wasting time ever since we didn't back Pochettino, ever since that we didn't make any signings over the 18 months. This club has been run into the ground. I've never seen a club of this stature in such disarray. When you're looking at from top to bottom, every single facet of the club is in complete disarray. No manager for the men's team, no manager for the women's team. The women's team are about to get relegated. The under-21s got relegated. You've got no sporting director. You've got a whole squad that needs a complete refresh. I mean, everything and anything and everything to do with this club is absolutely rotten to the core. And when you're talking about Julian Nagelsmann, right, I actually don't think the Julian Nagelsmann thing is completely dead. The whole thing that we heard about Julian Nagelsmann from the start is he ain't going to consider Spurs until he knows who the sporting director is. He still doesn't know who the sporting director is. So I think once we do bring in a sporting director, then maybe conversations can start to happen if it's on the right path.
Anybody want to come in here on the sort of maybe time wasted or anything like that? Ash or Dave here?
Listen, Ben, I said to your brother, it's the hope that kills you, my friend. It's the hope. Nagelsmann, forget him. He's gone. He's never coming back. It's over. It's done. It's over. I know what you're saying. Like, because we haven't got a sporting director, then maybe when he comes back, Them man denied him. They said we never spoke to him in the first place. We didn't have a chat. There was no conversation. They completely distanced themselves. I'm like, wow, liar, Jim Carrey. I can't believe it. They just kind of just moved away completely. So I'm like, I don't know. If I'm Nagelsmann and you're saying, right, you didn't talk to me, but I've got the receipts here. Like, do you understand? What are you talking about? You want me to share it in the whole world? Exactly that. So I'm like, bro, if you're telling lies on me, then boy, I don't know if I want to jump on board of the ship. That's how I see it. It was better if they said, things broken down. We had a conversation, it broke down, and we parted ways for now. Do you know what I mean? Or we're looking at different avenues. They could have dressed it so many ways. They could have cut the cake so many different ways, but they didn't. They tried to, they can't read the room, Ben. They can't read the room. It's a howler. I'm telling you, it stinks. They messed up and it was all public. All Spurs fans, whether you're in or out, shake it all about. Everybody knows it stinks. Nobody likes it. It's crazy, bro. That's all I got to say. But it's funny. They're saying they're looking for a young manager. They're looking for a young prospect of a manager. But Arne Slot's not young, is he? He's like 44. Is that young or... I don't know.
He's probably young into his Spurs, not Spurs. He's young into his managerial tenure. And
is that what he meant by that? By young?
Yeah,
probably. I thought he meant like below 40, something like.
He's still half Roy Hodgson's age. No.
I thought it'd be age. If you're like, if you're a certain age and you've got a walking stick, you can't. You've got too many grays, you can't come in. So yeah, I just think the board. On top of that, just to finish off, I think they're divided because from when you've got 3 sporting directors that have 3 different qualities, that must mean there must be divide up in the boardroom. They don't know what they want. They don't know what they want. So no wonder it's a mess upstairs or in Tottenham at the moment. No wonder we're taking so long to do our due diligence.
Yeah. Do you agree with me, Dave, that we're now paying the price for twiddling our thumbs this long? We put all our eggs in that Nagelsmann basket, didn't come out with Nagelsmann, and now we're all of a sudden going after director of football first. But like I said, 20 or 30 days away from equaling that record that we had with 72 days without a manager. It's all of a sudden now it feels like we've wasted practically 40 or 50 days, going after one guy. And now we're still at square zero, or, still at ground zero.
But Jack, this is exactly what I was saying when Conte was sacked, when Stellini was put in charge. Everyone was like, "It's okay, it's the interim manager." I warn people this is going to happen. You're going to have other clubs that'll end up looking for managers, and they'll get their hands in there first before us. You've got other clubs looking at sporting directors, getting their hands in there for hours. Then you also wasted pissing around time with Stellini to put Mason back in charge, and now we're seeing the consequences of it. One of our greatest ever managers is on his way to Chelsea. And this is the repercussions of us floundering around, not acting in a way that we should. If they had a week or so before they actually sacked Conte, where they knew they were going to sack him, they could have started looking around then. They could have started putting the feelers out then. They could have spoke to Nagelsmann quicker than what they did, and they could have got on the director of football quicker than what they did. But right now, they're just trying to merge it and see it out to the season, and then they're going to make all the decisions at the end of the season. It's too late. You should already have your manager in place, your director of football in place, know exactly what way you're going in the summer, and already be working on targets. And this is exactly the way we've been for quite some time, and it's just nowhere near good enough. And not only that, you've got PSG who might change manager. You've got Real Madrid's Ancelotti's contract up. So they're also going to be looking at managers. And this is the consequences of us waiting around. It's absolutely a joke. And to piss me off even further, they upped the price of the One Hotspur memberships yesterday. I mean, in a cost of living crisis, in a season where we're having to endure shit, they should be paying me to watch them this season. They said, you know what, we're going to up the prices for you to come and support this club even further. They are making it harder by the day with every decision they make to continue to support this football club in the manner that I've always grew up supporting this football club, which is with passion, always trying to see them doing things the right way, standing there representing Spurs with pride up against any other Premier League supporter. That's gone. They're making it harder to support this football club, and they're absolutely killing the club. They're killing the fans' passion and the hunger for this football club. You can see it all around the place. Even the most optimistic fans are becoming disillusioned and pissed off. And it's because of all these bonehead decisions that they compile with one after another after bloody another. And it's just not good enough. Yeah. We're now going to be sitting here in a manager search, sitting around twiddling our thumbs, waiting for Real Madrid to pick off, the meat off the carcass, waiting for PSG to go and pick the meat off the carcass, and we're going to be left with the fucking carcass. And it's always the way at Tottenham, and I've absolutely had enough of it. I've blown my top with this bloody football club.
Absolutely spot on. And you know what? With that bloody putting up the One Hotspur membership, it's so conveniently timed for this last game at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium when Harry Kane's going to have this mural, and they're going to have a QR code where you can, get some extra content in there, Harry Kane content, but you have to be a member. You need to be a member to access it. So convenient. You'd think after such a long, hard season, give it Harry Kane, record breaker, might be his last game, might not. Give them an extra bit of content, give them something to look at for the last game of the season. But no, trying to make money off that as well. Any way that they can make money, they try and do it at the expense of us fans.
But with the state of the football club, there should be a price freeze on absolutely everything. Until fans get what they're paying for on the football pitch, which what we've always paid for is footballers that get you off your bloody seat. Until we start seeing that on the football pitch, there should be a price freeze.
We're usually
putting up prices. And you can see right through what they've done. They go, okay, we can't hit the season ticket holders this season, so what we're going to do, we're going to hit the One Hotspur members. And I wouldn't be surprised to see that in future where One Hotspur members will be frozen and the season ticket holders will be hit. You can see exactly what they're doing. They're like, okay, we can't put up the season ticket, so how do we make that money back? let's hit the fans with the One Hotspur memberships. And they're usually the ones who can't really outlay the money that it takes on a season ticket at the start of the season and stuff like that. Ones who can't really afford much more out of their wages and stuff to be able to go and get a season ticket and all. And what do they want to do? They want to hit them harder in a cost of living crisis. And not only that, during the cost of living crisis, they couldn't even give us any excitement on the pitch. They double down and make it worse. And then they're going to tax you on top. We're going to tax you for being shit. I'm fed up with it.
There's no Antonio Conte documentary even with that price increase or anything like that. There's probably nothing that we could say we'd even be looking forward to be watching on the Spurs play, despite, the price increases. And just, I bet Ash is going to make a better point than I'm about to say, but just to sort of, come into the real world of things, often you do see, right, these sort of price increases, these season ticket price increases when a team is playing well, when a team is basically punching well above their weight, when they're sort of on a big stride, because then everybody wants to go and see them. Almost anybody will fight tooth and nail practically to get into that seat to see such a good team. But when you have a club that's basically stagnating, or in fact, in some cases, going backwards, that's the last time when you would in fact think of, sort of increasing the price, because it's not like the product on the pitch or even the product in general has gotten better. Whereas in other cases, when a club is, maybe even in the case of Arsenal, you would say after a season like this, it would make more sense for them to even increase their own season ticket prices than it would in our case, because at least they're showing some signs of actual improvement, whereas we're at the moment stagnating. Why on earth would you increase prices when you're only plateauing? But yeah, go on, Ash.
Yeah, for me, it's like, I feel like all Spurs fans right now, we're in like the Truman Show, or the Big Brother house. And it's like, in Big Brother house, when you're in a social experiment, you got like that guy, he's got the Northern accent. He's like, Dear 50 at the Big Brother house. Daniel Levy has decided to, I can't do the accent, so don't watch that. But he's like, basically, he's going to put up the food next. He's going to put up the drink next. Do you know what I'm saying? He's just going to keep putting up the merchandise, and we're going to keep on buying, and no one ain't going to do a thing about it. It's just they're just seeing how much they can squeeze before there's any revolt, but there's not going to be any revolt. That's how I feel. That's what I'm going to say.
We're part of a social experiment, bro. We're literally part of a social experiment. They're just saying how much can they push a human being before they absolutely crack?
That book, what's it called? 1981 or something. It's like a 1981 where they just do that weird experiment. That's what I feel like we're in right now. How much dross football can you watch with bad results and no trophies?
Yeah.
And still pay, and do you know what I'm saying? And bad managers, and it's just every day's a drama. And I'm just
Spurs fan prison experiment.
I'm tired. Tyred. I know I can't spell. I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm not tired as in tired. I'm tired. I'm done. I'm finished, bro.
Well, unless we have some other maybe comments on Levy, we do have some other topics to get to tonight. And one of them is the one that Mia, so thankfully as well, put well in the beginning. And sorry that we didn't get to it straight away, Mia, but we did have some sort of initial sort of warm-up news to kind of get to. Like I said, sort of right before the show came out, this sort of news that we were talking about earlier was being brought about on the likes of Twitter. But here it is. She's getting us started here on the first question. And it is Romero overrated by the fan base? She says, calling my boy Romero overrated, are you? Prepare to fight. The battle is on. LOL. Nah, I know you guys are not going to say it is true. Dave, I felt like maybe if we needed the extra firepower, if we really did want to take down Ash or Ben here, I think we would have brought on Mia, but maybe a bit unfair. 3-on-1 is probably not, kind to these guys. So we decide just to make it a 2-on-2.
No, 100%, it wouldn't be right. But look, first of all, I'd be intrigued. Is there anyone on the panel? Because, look, I know what Jack sits on Romero, so I don't think he's going to make the case for him being overrated. But Ben, Ashmatic, how do you believe that Romero is
started?
I can talk. I can just say, I just say it how it is, man. I just think he needs coaching. I see where people are going with this, because obviously Dier gets away with nothing, and he shouldn't, because he doesn't smell danger. His lateral movement's terrible. He doesn't like to tackle. He doesn't. He's not aggressive. He's not forward thinking. He's just got no defensive attributes. The only thing Dier can do is probably do a Hollywood or a quarterback pass, and he's not bad in the air. But apart from that, so I understand why Dier takes all the flack. But I feel like the fan base is like, when Romero does something wrong, he kind of gets away with it.
Can I maybe give you a bit of
disagree.
juice here? Give
I
you a bit of
disagree.
juice here, Ash, just to help you out, maybe just to maybe get us on started the right track. Like I said, I'm going to argue the complete opposite of maybe the stat that I'm about to bring up here. And almost, Dave, I'm going back to my roots here, bringing up some stats, you know, for this question in some sense. But I did see, according to FBref, that Romero has actually made the second most errors leading to shots on goal in our entire team. The first one is actually Hugo Lloris has actually led to the most errors shot on goals, but Romero has made the most errors that have led to basically big chances for the opposition. What would that tell you?
Yeah, so basically, I was gonna say, like, against Villa of recent, he was the one that was front-footed, but he mistimed his challenge against Ollie Watkins, and that's what led to, it should have been a foul, but the referee played advantage. It went to Ramsey. Ramsey played it into Bailey. Bailey played it back to Ramsey. Ramsey ended up scoring. So that was the first mistake of that particular game in isolation. And the second mistake, again, he made a mistake. He was too erratic, gave away a needless foul. And then obviously Douglas Luiz ended up scoring a free kick, which obviously Forster should have saved. But needlessly, both goals he was involved with both the mistakes as well. And it's not the first time it's happened. It's happened throughout the season when he's been a bit rash and he's come in a bit too early. And so the argument was, is Romero world class? And last season you would have said yes, but coming off the back of the World Cup, as he's come back, it's like almost he's had like a chip on his shoulder. I think that's where he lost a lot of fans, because he was saying, "Oh, I'm injured." You know, all of a sudden, Argentina, they're like, "Yeah, he's fine." You know what I mean? He's able to play the World Cup. And then there was things about him coming back late.
He missed the first two games though, Ash.
He did, but I mean, I'm talking about fans that were angry about, he's not playing for the badge, he's not playing for the shirt, he's not serious, rare. So then he's obviously come back, and then on top of that, he's not being the same. He's been off it slightly. So it's a couple of mistakes, but I would say that about the whole team. But it's like Dier gets all the slack, but then when it comes to Romero, he's not getting as much flack as he should do. Me personally, I still think he's a top player. And I think next season you're going to see the best out of him. I think the team has suffered a lot just from the absence of Bentancur. I think Bentancur was like either first or second when it came to winning balls back, when it comes to tackles and challenges for Spurs in the defensive half, in the midfield half, and in the final third. So Bentancur has been a real presence in our team. And I think that South American blood, they're able to kind of help each other. When he presses, then that kind of steps up the ball for Romero, and then Romero wins the challenge and he looks like the hero. So I just think that that defensive solidity may have been lost. And obviously his partners have been chopping and changing in the back three, and also on the wing back as well. And I think that's had something to do with his performances being up and down this season. So, but for me personally, I still think, like, on the ball, like against Villa, he put a ball into Sonny, and Son should have put that away. Obviously, he ran a bit too early and got offside, scored. And then again, against the Palace game, he put another glorious ball over the top to Sonny. Sonny's like faked it, that he's overrun it, and then the keeper ends up saving it. So I think Romero looks very good on the ball. And I think off the ball, we just need someone to tell him off certain times and rein him in, because I just think they're kind of scared of it. They're kind of shook. Just say, look, what are you doing? Just pull him up a couple of times. Say, bro, we can't be doing that all the time. But I just feel like no one really raises him in. And we need some leaders in that department there to say, look, bro, what are you doing? Like, you need to kind of slow down a bit.
Ben, what are your thoughts maybe on Romero potentially being overrated by the fan base? He made some errors against the likes of Aston Villa. Of course, that free kick that we conceded that eventually led to a goal, right? You know, that was his foul. What are your thoughts? More mistakes from Romero?
Look, he has made mistakes this season. There's no two ways about it. But I think that Romero needs to function in a fully functional team. You saw at the back end of last season, he was absolutely brilliant for us. Well, last season, he was absolutely brilliant for us when Conte had us functioning. And at the World Cup, he was absolutely brilliant for Argentina when they had a functioning team, won the World Cup. I think this year, I think sometimes that he is over-aggressive and he can be overzealous a bit, but I think he's trying to compensate for what he's missing around him. He looks to the right of him sometimes, he looks to the left of him sometimes, and it's just dross, defensive dross. And he needs to overcompensate so much. And I feel like as soon as he gets competent defenders next to him, you're going to see the real Romero, and you're going to see him step up to what we saw the levels of Argentina, what we saw last season as well. So no way do I buy into that Romero is overrated. I think he's a top quality player, and he's only going to grow and grow and grow. And if we're going to lay into players, I mean, Romero is definitely not the one that we should be laying into. We've got so many more players, especially in that back line, that we should be laying into, the likes of Eric Dier and Davinson Sanchez, and you know the names, you know what I mean?
Do you even have any seeds of doubt whatsoever? Because like I said, he could be maybe your favorite defender, but maybe some seeds of doubt have come into your head, maybe with this season. What do you think? Like maybe with some players?
No, not even. Not even. I know, I recognize that he hasn't had a good season, but I always compare it to the Vertonghen season that he had under Villas-Boas. He was terrible because he had Dross around him. As soon as he brought in Alderweireld next to him, as soon as we had a competent defense for him to play with, he was one of the best defenders in the Premier League. And I think exactly the same is going to happen to Cuti Romero.
Dave, what are your thoughts? I mean, I know what you're going to say. He's probably, in fact, maybe underrated by, the fan base is probably what we would say, over here. We're big lovers of Romero. But like I said, another mistake maybe against the likes of Aston Villa. It did lead to, that goal being conceded. I think Forrester could have done so much better. Don't get me wrong, but it still was a bad free kick to concede. Do you feel like maybe at least some seeds of doubt have been planted with Romero for you? No?
Nope, not whatsoever. I believe the guy's absolutely quality. See, at Tottenham, right? I get everything around the club is shit right now. But what I won't accept is players being dragged into that are good enough to be here. We're very quick to turn on our players and stuff like that. And in Romero's case, it was only not so long ago people were bringing up saying, Jays, I remember when we first signed him, Dave, you said he was going to be like Virgil van Dijk, he's class. Now all of a sudden they're sitting here a few months later going, he's overrated, this, that, and the other. Now I'm not going to sit here and say he hasn't made mistakes. Of course he has. But like Ben said, he's overcompensating for clowns around him who don't know how to defend. If you had a calm defender there beside him, or a defender that he trusts beside him, he's not going to make them rash challenges. But also, Romero is a defender that should be in a possession-based team. When you're on the ball, which means you're not relying on him, you're not relying on your defense as much as we are this season. And when we're relying on the defense as much as we are this season, Romero doesn't trust others around him to make the tackles, so he just goes and takes them out himself. Look, for too long we've had a bit of a soft underbelly at that back line, and Romero's come in and he's sort of, he's getting stuck in. He's not making us as nice to play against, especially down that right hand side. And on the ball, he's the best. He's the best on the ball, even better than some of our midfielders on the ball. For me, you just need, like Ash was saying, a calm, experienced guy beside him to speak to him. Romero's a guy that, when he's under pressure, he loses his head in the moment. But the trick is put him in a possession-based team, and he's not under pressure as much. But even if we were under the pump, if you had an older, experienced guy beside him, talking to him, nurturing him, and guiding him, you will see a much better Romero, a 10 times better Romero. For me, like at Tottenham, we're very quick to find reasons not to call our players good. I heard it with Luka Modric. Oh, he's not world class. He went to Madrid. Now everyone wishes he would be back. He is world class. Gareth Bale, we were afraid to call him world class before he went to Real Madrid. We went to Real Madrid, all of a sudden he's world class. At Tottenham, I hate to say it, but as history proves, we can buy some good players that are on the path to world class, on their path to stardom, and I believe Romero is one of them. Don't know what you guys think off the back of that.
No, I think you're absolutely spot on, Dave. And another example is Trippier. I know Trippier might not be the top end of world class, but we completely chucked him away. And now he's one of the best right backs in the league. Imagine we had Trippier all season this year and last year in a Conte system. He would have absolutely smashed it for us. So we do throw away players way too easily here at Tottenham. And for anyone that wants to throw shade at Cuti Romero for making mistakes this season, just look at the dross he has around him, and there's your answer.
Yeah.
Another thing, too, I would say now that I'm back here is that some other stats, like I said, going back to my roots here, he does have the most tackles and interceptions in the squad. And he hasn't, of course, played the most minutes in this team. Eric Dier, and we know people like Højbjerg basically played some of the more minutes of this whole team. And he's actually on 112 tackles and interceptions, whereas Eric Dier, who's played 5 more like full 90s than Romero, is on 65. So basically, Romero has doubled the amount of tackles and interceptions than Eric Dier has, while also playing 5 fewer games in terms of full 90s. We know that Eric Dier, right, plays a bit more of a reserved position, right? He's supposed to be a bit more conservative, but that's what does tell me, right? If he is nearly doubling, the amount of tackles and everything, just shows that you have 2 very different mindsets of defenders. But then we also know that Eric Dier isn't exactly known for being the cool, calm head at the back that when he steps in, he will win it. And when he steps in, he will sort of make things safe. He's never been that guy either. So that's where you do start to maybe feel like Romero is going to maybe not look like his best self, because some of even the stats reflect it with the guys around him. They're nowhere near as aggressive as him, or they don't even anticipate the game or read the game in the same way he is too. So that also maybe leads to some imbalance as well, I think.
But also, there's no communication across that back line. When you see how badly we get done with balls over the top, that shows that no one's speaking, no one's passing on men, no one's, looking over their shoulder, telling people to tuck in and stuff like that, which you have to do during the game. It's clear to me with the amount of balls that come over that top, there's no communication across that back lines whatsoever. And look, Romero, I don't believe he's ever going to be that guy. He needs someone else to be that guy. Romero's one of them. He's in the moment. He's in the game. Yeah. He feels the game. He reads the game. He's not a talker. He's not a ranter. He's not a raver. He wants to smash and chest bump. That's what that guy wants to do. So you need to get that guy, that calm and influence in beside him, someone that will speak, someone that will command that back line. And once you get that, you'll see a much better back line at Tottenham. Many people thought Dier was it. He could do it in 20-odd different languages with D-Way. Now, hopefully, we realize being bi-multilingual that does not make a leader. That just makes someone who's trying to... In fact, that to me is sort of like a lickars, someone who picks up every language possible to keep himself in a job. That's what that is.
What do you make of, the difference in sort of their aggression, or even also the fact that we know that, like we said, one is sort of a defender that likes to take a step backwards, and then the other is clearly a guy that likes to take a step forward, and clearly they're not on the same page. Can we get a defender that's, a bit cautious like Dier is, and can that work with Romero, or does Romero need someone else that's sort of just as aggressive as he is? Ben or Ash, what do you think?
I don't know. It depends what formation we play. Because at the end of the day, if we decide to go to a back two, I feel like we need someone with a bit of pace, just in case, like you were saying, the ball goes over the top or in behind. You need someone that's going to be quick enough to kind of clean up. I'm not saying Romero is slow or anything, but if the ball's going over his head, which it has done before, I remember against AC Milan, the ball's gone over his head, and then they end up in behind and end up scoring. I think we need someone that's just as quick and as able, but as well as being fast, you need to be able to read and smell the danger before it happens. So you need to always know in the back of the mind, even if you've got possession, it might be a counter press where the team might win the ball, and then all of a sudden they're in behind. They're going to try and hit our line. So I just feel like a defender that has pace, that can smell the danger, that can read the game, and just likes defending as well. Like gone are the days where you had the old-fashioned defenders that love defending. I think that's why people loved Romero, because he actually tackles, where Dier kind of like backs off, does his arms behind his back, does a hokey pokey dance, and then they shoot and score, and it ends up in the back of the net. So I just feel like, someone that's a physical player. I don't mind a physical player. And I do understand you kind of want one like Toby and ones like Jan, because that was a good balance, and you want players that complement each other at the end of the day. But I'm still up for a player that, if we're going to go to a back two, even a back three might be different, but I want someone that's quite quick and doesn't mind a challenge as well, because we've been.
We need a tall one as well. They need to be tall, big in the air.
Tall. 100%. Even like with Longley, is similar. He doesn't really. I do understand what they're trying to do. It's like a continental style of defending. They kind of not parry you, but they kind of like jockey you. They kind of just follow you, and then they time their challenges. Whereas Romero's tries to get there before that player gets there. So I do understand the two different styles. But
proactive. He's proactive. That's what we need. None of our defenders are proactive. He's the only one in this whole squad that is proactive.
Yeah, and you see it in stages of the game, though, where like we've been asking, the players, just someone press the ball here. Like, why is Bruno Fernandes, being able to just sort of take 8-9 touches outside of our box? And we've seen even Romero, he's almost like something snaps in his head, where then he just starts chasing after guys just to try to win the ball back, and will step out of the defense sort of even higher than a Højbjerg, or even higher than a right winger would, to win the ball back. And you could see that maybe even too, perhaps the style of play even this season hasn't always suited him either, because he does look often a bit frustrated, sitting back or sitting as deep as he is, because like you mentioned, Ash, he is very good on the ball, So the fact that we're also maybe sitting so deep and sitting so much without the ball maybe frustrates him as well, right? Because then if he's only defending and he's only defending really deep and he's seeing that no one else is, making any sort of aggression, they're all kind of just moving from side to side, shifting and not making any sort of, like we said, proactive defending, he probably gets a little pissed off and maybe sort of loses his own head. Even that red card that we saw him, Dave do at against the likes of AC Milan at home. The reason it happened was because he was so frustrated with Ben Davies being constantly caught in no man's land. Ben Davies couldn't make the decision the whole game, deciding whether to step out and be that proactive defender or sort of retreat and, keep the shape. And he just kept getting caught in no man's land. I think after maybe the 10th time it had happened, Romero just beelined it over to Giroud and decided to just kill him, basically. And I don't blame him in that case because, like we brought up before, when you have such or guys that he probably have an Eric Dier that's more proactive, that at least misses the challenges, because then it makes the game at least look like there is a bit more excitement to it. He looks like he has some more energy, but the fact that he's surrounded by guys who are not great defenders, but are also very reluctant to even make a challenge, very reluctant to even step out at all, probably frustrates him, I imagine, even further.
But as well, when he makes some of them challenges, he's waiting for other players to sort of be inspired by that, step up. And they all just look around and they're like, fuck me, what a lunatic, and they just continue on doing the same thing. When really what should be happening, they should be picking them up, pat them on the back of the head, well done, and the next guy should go in and take out the next guy, make them realize we're not a soft touch to play with. Once you get in a few nasty tackles like that, teams, you'll see players, they shirk responsibility. They want to pass it inside. They want to pass it away all the time. We've seen that with Romero last season. A lot of ball that went down inside very quickly came back, or it was switched over to the far side, because, many players didn't fancy up against them. And we've got a real good defender who is a rarity in modern football, Jack. He's mastered the art of absolutely clattering people and hurting them in a day and age where soccer's at its softest ever in terms of being allowed to tackle and stuff like that. So for me, you got to keep that and you got to harness it, and you got to realize when you've got something special that no one else has, and you got to work with it. That's where I'm at with it. But big up, Mia. Really appreciate the super chat.
So Jack, you mentioned how to make the game more exciting with Eric Dier playing. The only way to do that is to not play him. That is literally the only way to do it. Just keep him as far away from that pitch as possible. But I was at the Legends game on Sunday, and what a lineup those Legends had. Unbelievable. King and Dawson at the back, Rose left back. I mean, I was thinking...
Bet you even take Kabul back right now instead of Dier,
probably would. But I was there, I was watching the game, and I was watching Ledley King play, and he's better than Eric Dier. Like, Ledley King at this age with one knee, he's still better than Eric Dier right now. And I was thinking to myself, like, can you imagine Ledley King and Romero at the back together?
Well, can I ask you actually quickly, Ben, because someone brought this up. Someone said Ledley King is a very aggressive defender, but many people thought he never looked out of control. He never looked rash despite being an aggressive defender. Let's compare him to Romero. Romero has looked a bit rash, has looked a bit out of control at times. I mean, does he need to maybe learn a bit of, from a Ledley King? Could a Ledley King put his arm around his shoulder, sort of thing?
100%. I think any defender can learn something from Ledley King, because he was that good. I mean, he was just turn up, no training in a week, no bother, just step in and be the best player on the pitch. And the guy's anticipation, the guy's speed, he hardly ever made fouls. That's how good he was. And
do you feel like he reads the game better than Romero did at his age?
100%. That guy read. I'm just thinking about Ledley King, and it's making me well up a bit, because he was so good, and he doesn't get the credit he deserves from outside of Tottenham. Because I genuinely believe if he wouldn't have got the injuries with his knees, he would have been one of England's best centre backs. He was.
Do you know what, Ben? I've heard Rio Ferdinand say, I've heard other defenders that are in that England team, maybe ahead of him in the pecking order, say that if he didn't have them injuries, he would have been one of the best centre backs in the world. And it's that simple. They would have they wouldn't have got as many caps as they did if Ledley King was fit. He does get recognition in them sort of circles, and a lot of people say about him. But like Ben says, he was just a Rolls.
An aggressive defender like Ledley, then Dave, could then sort of teach Romero a thing or two, because it's not like he's teaching a defender that's maybe a bit, like we said, like two proactive defenders. He could see Ledley King, he can see himself maybe in some ways in Romero with that sort of aggression, with that speed and everything. But like maybe plenty of people put in the comments, Ledley King was so much more controlled, could read the game a bit better. So this is some of the things that we've said about Romero, right? Sometimes his timing is a bit off. Sometimes he is a bit too much rush, blood to the head. These are sort of things you hope that maybe Ledley King, since he is already around the club, can maybe teach Romero a thing or two.
He would have loved playing alongside Romero. He would have sent Romero out to do all the dirty work, and he would have just sat there reading the game up and up behind him. Anything that came by him, he would have absolutely relished playing with Romero.
Best defender in the Premier League era by far, Ledley King. By far. Better than Toby, better than Jan, better than all. By far.
That's what I was going to ask, actually. If you were to take maybe Toby, Jan, or Ledley to partner Romero right now, it would be Ledley for sure for
Ledley,
you.
Hands down. Because Ledley King, the attributes that Ledley King has is everything that we're missing right now in our back line. Height, good in the air, speed, anticipation. Arjen Robben was one of the fastest players in the Premier League, and look how he caught up to him with that challenge. I mean,
he can take the ball into midfield.
I remember that. That was
unbelievable.
Cool.
He can take the ball into midfield as well. He could get on the ball. He could play as well,
And he played in midfield for England as well. I think it was in Euro 2004. I think it was. He played at the base of a midfield three, and he was brilliant.
Just class footballer in general. That's what it is. You can play almost anywhere. Moondog says here, and it's a little while ago, but apologies, Moondog. But like we said, maybe the topics have been all over the place today. Just a smorgasbord of topics today. Moondog says, we're the only bipolar Tottenham Hotspur. The club is bipolar up and down. It feels like at this stage, we just can't get any sense of direction or any sense of competency from what I can tell, Moondog. And we have I'm not sure if we have as much time for this today, but I did kind of bring this up, in the title here. Are Spurs fans maybe experiencing a bit of deja vu? Because I feel like where we were once Jose was sacked, Ryan Mason was put in charge. We had sort of this weird kind of summer lined up where we didn't exactly know who we wanted as manager. All of a sudden we were in on Antonio Conte. It felt like that was about to get signed and done. Then it didn't happen. We put all our eggs in that basket. Didn't end up going through because we lacked the follow through. We lacked the ability to meet their demands. Similar thing has just happened with Julian Nagelsmann. Now we're headed after directors of football. We're not really sure which one we want. And could that director of football end up doing the same thing Paratici did, rips up the manager list and puts us, again, in sort of a bit of, we don't know where we're headed. Like you said, it's bipolar, or at least it's almost just like a different, there's no sense of like they actually know what they really want to do, because they're making one decision one week and then making a second decision the other week that seems to completely conflict with what you would think sort of their mindset might be on. So that's what people, I think, really mean by direction. It's not even just a literal sense. It's just like, is the thinking aligned with the previous things that they have done? Has the decision they just made a week ago make sense with the context of something they're doing a few weeks later? And that's never been the case with Spurs. You'll see one decision made one week followed by a decision that you would feel like would be the complete opposite the other.
Completely. Yeah, it's funny because I was looking at Mason the last time he was in charge. And basically, when Jose was sacked, he reverted back to like Pochettino's tactics on the pitch. And this time around, I feel like since Conte's been sacked, he's kind of reverted back to Jose's tactics slightly. I was just looking at Jose Mourinho's tactics closely, and I was like, the whole change in formation, Jose used to do that, how he used to play one formation in possession, and then out possession, he would do another formation. And then even the whole Son and Kane thing, he's trying to replicate that. You saw, like, obviously against Villa, Kane was trying to find Son every time. So I just feel like, for real, it's deja vu, my broski. You're right, man. I can't even lie to you. Yeah, I think you're spot on with that.
And then he also
every year this club, man.
And he also says our new manager's name is going to be Lucky Dip. I think it'll be Lucky Attempt, Lucky Try, whatever it is. Second choice. That's what it's becoming, Moondog. It'll be second choice. That's where manager
I thought it was
is.
second half FC, not second choice.
Yes, well. Maybe on this, though, just since I asked Moondog this, Dave, do you feel like we are going through a bit of deja vu right now as Spurs fans, where, let's be honest, this is quite similar circumstances to where we found ourselves when Jose Mourinho was sacked, and then Paratici came in, ripped up the manager list. We were actually going after Antonio Conte. That fell through. We had to go for second, third, fourth choices. I don't know, a lot of we're just basically repeating some of the same mistakes of the past. And the scenario looks exactly the same. Like, it is a repetition. It is some sort of hilarious, not hilarious, but a dark hilarity of sort of a cycle at Spurs. Do you feel like it's deja vu?
Yeah, I think it's more or less the exact same, to be honest with you, Jacko. I mean, it's something that we've spoke about on podcasts and that before, where it's the exact same with being in no man's land with a director of football, and one will have to be appointed. We've got one manager shortlist. You appoint director of football, he'll probably end up giving you a different manager shortlist that he wants in to fit the style and the system that he has and the players that he wants to bring in. And you look at it, we've also got massive work to do this summer. Harry Kane's future is also up in the air once again and stuff like that. It's the exact same. And this is why fans are getting pissed off, Jack. This is why fans are getting annoyed. With no matter how much money we've thrown at it, and we're already in our second rebuild going into our third. We've done one with Steve Hitch and one with Paratici, and we're now going into our third. And we keep chopping and changing directions and stuff like that. And I mean, what's the definition of insanity, Jack? Keep persisting with the same things, expecting different results. You're not going to get them. And this is what Tottenham keep doing. We keep, trying, like, doing the same thing, sacking the manager, the director of football or whatever, and then bringing in the next guys. And it's just not working. At some stage, in order to fix this mess, you've got to continue on a plan. Like, we had this argument, or not an argument, this debate on your Tottenham TV yesterday where someone brought up, I think it might have been you, Ben, where you said, Jose Mourinho and Antonio Conte were the wrong appointments for Tottenham. And I sort of said, no, they're the right appointments for Tottenham. We just didn't back them to the extent we should have. And I'm not going to get into an argument to say where they backed, where they weren't. At the end of the day, they got players in the door. But if you're not going to address the long outstanding issues that were here before them, how do you expect them to succeed? You bring in two managers that are known for keeping tight defenses, which is their platform for you to go and build on and win games. And if you keep clean sheets, you always have a chance of winning the game. That's the way they see football. We make them work with Dier and Sanchez. And people like that. And it's like, we're getting in the right appointments. We're just not following it through. And when Dier and people like that can't keep up with the demands and everything else of professional football, we sack the manager and we continue with these guys, when in reality, you got to keep the manager and you got to continue to back. No project is ever going to be one or two windows argument. Is he back? Is he not? And that's it. And you sack him. With the state Tottenham Hotspur is in, it needs continued investment. It needs a continuation on and of an idea. And that's where we need to get to, because if not, Jack, we'll be sitting here in deja vu again, 16 months down the line, talking about the same shit.
I wouldn't it's human nature sometimes to repeat yourself or repeat mistakes. Like, it's not always the case that you sort of, do one thing wrong and then all of a sudden, like, you completely learned, all your mistakes. Like, it's quite common that somebody might make the same mistake twice. But when it is sort of like the exact same scenario in some way, that means you're making the exact same mistakes and not noticing, like, in any way whatsoever. So you let Nagelsmann fall through. You wouldn't then think to yourself, maybe this is a bit similar to what happened under Antonio Conte. Then you're sort of twiddling your thumbs over the director of football. You're like, is this a bit similar to the Paratici situation? You also have the likes of all these young players that don't seem to have any sort of idea of where the future is headed and where there's any sort of pathway. Everything just sort of seems to be that mistakes are being repeated. But like I said, maybe you repeat some mistakes. It seems to be human nature that people do that. But to make every single mistake be repeated once again just screams either negligence, incompetence, maybe all those, but also as well just pure ignorance, because you're not acknowledging, right, any of the fact that you are in the exact same scenario. Like, you think again that maybe perhaps we missed out on Nagelsmann, but maybe we already had a director of football. That would be a huge improvement from what it was previously, but it's not. In fact, some people are saying it's even worse than the previous sort of deja vu situation, which worries me, because that does scream no lack of accountability or any lack of sort of acknowledgement that, yeah, we're finding ourselves like constantly in the same position here. We're finding ourselves in the same sort of cul-de-sac, right?
The reason why it's worse, just quickly, and then I'll shut up, is because you no longer have the top managers available to you. That's why it's worse. Let's be honest. As much as we're trying to, see why Slot would be a good fit, see why other managers could be a good fit, they're nowhere near the caliber of a Jose Mourinho, of an Antonio Conte, of a Guardiola, of a Klopp, of a Pochettino. And the reality is, the reason why it's worse is because you can no longer go and eat at the top table. You're hoping that this next guy can come in and get it right and push us forward, but there's no guarantee it's going to happen.
Yeah. Yo, guys, I just want to say I've got a dip. I've got a breeze. But yeah, we'll link up in a little piece. Love and peace. And I see you on the other side, guys. Big yourselves up. Catch me down there. But yeah, man, big up to everyone. And as always, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs. Good luck on the power hour at the gym.
I'm out. Big up.
Good luck on the power hour. Good man. Everybody, big up Ash in the chat. And as well, I'm going to put in the link one more time here for the likes of Southview Kois. Everybody do check them out. It's at least one of the many places you can find the likes of Ash, that's for sure. But he's definitely becoming a regular everywhere. Everybody loves the guy. But maybe, Ben, just kind of like we said, maybe last sort of topic or question here, just give your sort of thoughts on it, and then we'll start kind of wrapping things up. But like maybe I was bringing up deja vu for Spurs fans, it feels like, and it screams ignorance to be in the exact same scenario. Like I said, maybe if we had a director of football, you would say, all right, they learned from at least one mistake. But the fact that every single, point is the exact same is a huge worry.
Yeah, and I think the word you use, ignorant, is absolutely spot on, because it feels like we're in Groundhog Day every year. I mean, when's the last time we've had a manager for a full season? Was it? I think it was Pochettino. And it's just like, it's crazy. Like, how has it been so long since we've had a manager for a whole season? And you're telling me that it's every single manager's fault why they can't complete a whole season. It's every single manager's fault why they end up getting sacked every year. No. It's the top. It's Daniel Levy. It's the ENIC. It's the board. Every single time. It's rotten to the core. And what it's actually, as much as you're saying, it's the same thing every time, which it is, but it's actually worse now than it ever has been.
I've heard people say that. Yeah.
It is. It's the worst than it ever has been, because this club has zero direction. Every facet of the football club, from the very top to the very bottom, is absolutely rotten to the core. And now it's not even just Spurs fans that are wising up to it. You're hearing opposition fans talking about it. You're hearing journalists talking about it. You're hearing Harry Kane talking about it. You're hearing Ryan Mason even agreeing with Harry Kane when he is talking about it. So, I mean, if people like that are starting to talk about it, how do these guys have a leg to stand on? And on top of all of that, they think they're doing a good job. So what hope do we have? What hope do we have?
And also, when you're repeating the same mistakes, it's not like you're sort of it's probably the reason why it's worse than it was before, is because if you are basically repeating the exact same mistakes, it's not like it's sort of you'd find yourself in the same position. Probably because you've been making so many mistakes for years on end, you're actually more likely to be in a worse scenario because you haven't made any sort of leaps and bounds of improvement. Like I said, again, it feels like they could at least have done certain things that maybe they didn't do last time. And even the Harry Kane situation is the exact same. Be nice to even know if Harry Kane had some sort of future with Spurs. They could have at least had one thing that they could have done, or at least learned differently from last time. But no, it's in fact, I think, completely identical. And maybe the fact that it is completely identical is almost worse in a way. So, yeah.
But they're alienating thousands and thousands and thousands of people. You're seeing people that have been going for 20, 30, 40, 50 years, not wanting to go back anymore. The atmosphere at the club is dead. You go into the stadium, you're like walking into a funeral. You know what I mean? It's absolutely shocking, the state that they've left this club. And it's absolutely criminal to have a player of Harry Kane's stature at this football club and not knowing if he's going to be here next year. It's criminal to have top quality players at this football club and not being able to kick on. The whole thing is an absolute joke.
And this is the sad thing, is because there's everything in place for us to kick on, go and win something and have that sustained for years. You've got a massive stadium. You've got a lot of the, I know people are going to kill me for saying this, but look, you've got a lot of the other revenue streams coming in that maybe aren't open to other clubs. You've got the best training complex there with a bloody hotel and absolutely everything. You've got the best player care there is around the world. All it needs is just someone with a bit of money that wants to splash it, give us everything we need heading into one season, making a good fist of it. And from there, then you go, okay, where do I need to sprinkle this team to push on and maybe go on and win again and sustain it? But right now, we are effectively a sleeping giant. That's what we are, where we roll out the same season, renewed hope, some new players, but the same shit persists itself because you've still got so many old heads leading that squad and stuff like that. You've got a manager who goes out there feeling insecure, who sticks to his guns because he can't try anything, because the minute he does, he's out the door, he's sacked. So it's sad really where we are at. There's a lot of potential at this football club. And you want me to be brutally honest, if Tottenham were winning, people wouldn't give a shit about the goal card. Wouldn't give a shit about the absence. In fact, Tottenham would probably do it. Half of them would probably be abseiling down the side of the stadium and sitting there playing Mario Kart if we were winning.
Dave, these things are brilliant things for a football club to have, these extra revenue streams. I don't think anybody has a problem with these revenue streams. It's how the club act with the revenue streams. That's the whole point. That's the whole point. The revenue streams are great. They're great. Yeah. Other teams would kill to have what we have. Kill. Yeah. But at the end of the day, this club is an absolute illusion because Mourinho walks into this door. He sees this brand new stadium. He sees the facilities that he's going to be working in every day. And he's like, all right, this club is ready to explode. But then the truth really comes out and they see how the owners actually act around this football club. We're basically a world-class footballing football club, but we run it like a League 2 club, League 1 club. You know what I mean?
We're no longer a football institution. We're a sporting institution. And what I mean by that is you see other sports come in here and excel it over the football. And that's where fans are getting pissed off. Fans just want to... they want what we were promised when we moved to this level with all the revenue streams. We want to see that reflecting on the pitch in terms of the quality of players we're watching. The fact that we're still watching, I'll put Harry Kane and Son aside because people do pay money to watch them. But the fact that we were promised to go into a new era, push on, and that would put us in line to be able to compete for major talent. Why are we talking about this season renewing Eric Dier's contract if that's not what we were promised? We were told we'd move in to compete for elite talent, but yet we're looking to hold on to Eric Dier. Hugo Lloris has outstayed his welcome. I don't blame him for that, but the reality is we haven't really signed anyone to sort of displace him. Ben Davies is still here. We're still relying on Sanchez. This is not what we were promised when we moved into the stadium. We were told, take them 3 windows out, let us build the stadium, which will bring all the revenue streams and everything else with it, and we will push on and we will go and sign and compete for elite players across the world. But what they want to do is save that sort of cash, and they want to reward these guys with new contracts. And they wonder why fans get pissed off. They wonder why there's protests. They wonder why there's different movements popping up left, right, and centre. They wonder why they're being ridiculed all across the media. They wonder why ex-players are speaking out. They wonder why people inside the club are speaking out. Well, that's exactly why. We were not, none of us expected to be going to this stadium and watching Eric Dier head a ball straight back into Mo Salah's path. None of us were expecting to see Hugo Lloris palm a ball into Arsenal's path for them to tap away at our stadium. All shit like that. No one was expecting this. They have failed to deliver on their promises. And until they do, the noise is going to continue. So it's up to them. You either sort it out and put the cash injection in that's needed to put us on the right path because, the reality is we've argued about, look, the club have spent money. They spent it wrongly, granted. But where we are at right now, we need that money all in one summer. No excuses. And if you can't afford it, well, then give it to someone else that can. That's where I'm at with it. I'm fed up with this. I can't sit here any longer being embarrassed by Ennis Mora, Sheffield United down in the Championship, going out to Vitesse and watching players make excuses after excuses. Watching Jose Mourinho come out and saying, I wanted Kim Min-jae, but we end up signing Joe Rodon, who costs more than Kim Min-jae. I can't watch Conte come out and unleash on the club like he does out of frustration. I can't watch Harry Kane walk away from this club not winning anything anymore. It's no longer good enough, and we're at a time where, and I've warned this for years, if we keep going down this cycle of sacking managers and stuff like that, eventually you're going to fall further and further down the table, and by the time you wake up, you're going to be just hovering above relegation. Relegation teams go through 3 managers in a season, not a team like Tottenham Hotspur vying for Europe. So unless they sort it out, we're fucked.
You can only plateau for so long.
Just walk into Chelsea as well is an absolute disgrace. It's unforgivable. It's absolutely unforgivable. It's going to be unforgivable if Harry Kane leaves the club. It's going to be unforgivable Pochettino walking into Chelsea. And it's unforgivable the state of this football club right now. And I don't see a way how they turn it around. I really don't.
No, it's hard.
Well, everybody, please get your comments in for kind of the remainder of the show. We're going to start wrapping up here. Hit that like button, please, as well. I'm going to take 2 comments here that I decided to pick out just from the fans here, just sort of get some quick rapid fire answers from Ben and Dave, and then we'll wrap things up here. Just picked this one out from Phil, from the Phil Army. Brummy Phil says, purple and gold till Tottenham are sold, Levy and Enoch out. Question for the panel, with Jose and Conte exposing the owners, do you think that's why we are struggling to get a top manager in? I feel like he might be hitting the nail head here, Mr. Phil Coys, but maybe the only thing I can add to it is that it could be the case too that Spurs have sort of maybe expended all their opportunities at bringing in, the top managers. They are going to maybe have to settle for a guy that isn't going to be as sort of dissuaded by, what's happened to Jose and a Conte. We will maybe have to settle, like we've said, second choice, third choice, fourth choice, because when you do sort of isolate and maybe cast out these sort of managers in this type of way, it only creates a bad reputation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I said it at the time when we hired Antonio Conte, like, if Antonio Conte does not win anything at this football club, then where else has he got to turn? What other manager can he turn to? What other manager is going to come and accept the job? Because it's obviously a poison chalice. If Jose Mourinho walks in this door, Antonio Conte walks in this door, and they walk away with nothing. They've won every single other place in their career apart from Tottenham. Tell me why that is.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely spot on. And look, for me, just quickly, Phil, I mean, I warned once fans were putting pressure on to get Jose Mourinho sacked. If we are lucky enough to get another top-class manager and after that, we can't do the same mistakes, because it'll be your last chance sort of to prove to a top manager that this is a place for them to come because they can continue on their success that they've always had on their CV. I warned when we got Conte in the door, this has to go right. We can't sit here and put the pressure on him when Eric Dier and Sanchez and stuff are making mistakes. You've got to push for them guys to go and stuff like that way before you push for a manager to go. And now we're at a situation where no manager's going to touch Tottenham. What top manager is going to look at Tottenham after Pochettino, Jose Mourinho, and Antonio Conte? What manager is going to look to come here and go, do you know what? That would be a good club for me to go to because I can continue on to build my CV, this, that, and the other. The reality is there's so much problems with Tottenham Hotspur right now. No top managers are going to touch it. That's why we're not dining at the top table anymore. These guys are not stupid. That's why Nagelsmann is sitting there waiting for us to put some proper plans forward for a massive overhaul this summer. So this is the starts reality of it. But look, we can sit here and we can blame the owners for it as well. But the reality is fans and media also have to sort of take a bit of, the blame for it as well. The media are very quick to put out stories and frame it that everything's the manager's problem. Fans fall in behind that, and we demand for these guys to be sacked as well. So the perception when these guys are leaving is that they're washed up, they're done, they're no longer winners, they don't know how to win anymore. And then all of a sudden they leave and they go on and win elsewhere. So it's the whole thing. It's the whole thing. That's the problem.
Yeah, and Dave, this is why I was saying to you yesterday that I think Ryan Mason is probably best suited to this football club because we need a yes man in the job. He's the only one that's going to last at the end of the day. And what a better yes man than someone that bleeds blue and white like Ryan Mason. Yeah, he might not be the best manager, but I think that's where we're at. That's exactly where we're at. As much as
that's where we're at, Benji. Get prepared for the championship in 2026.
Yeah, you can only plateau this long and you will start slipping very, very quickly. Also, everybody, just quickly as well, I just want to say, can we please get to 100 likes? We don't often ask, for the like button, but if you can, please, everybody, over 200 in the house for the majority of this stream, not even on 100 likes. So please, everybody, let's get there, though, before we do end off. And then King Hoddle, hopefully you didn't sign off too quickly, my man. I thought I did an all right job with the questions, but I saved this Emerson Royal one for you. And Benji, last and quickly, Emerson Royal was touted to be the first man out the door last season. Do you think he'll be our starting right back next season?
Look, I think it all depends on which manager comes in, which formation that we do play. If we do stick with three at the back, I would like to see him stick at the right centre-back role. I really would. I like Emerson Royal, and I think the fan base gave him a bad rap, to be honest, me included. I'm going to put myself in that as well. I think we gave him a bad rap because he was playing in a position that wasn't suited to him in a right wing back role, pushing him high up the pitch. But once Conte started making the tweaks, bringing him in more into the centre of the pitch, you saw value in him. And now in this right centre back role, I think it's the role that probably suits him the best. So I want to keep Emerson Royal around. I think he's a good character to have as well.
The comeback of the century.
I'm not even going to comment on Emerson Royal because everyone knows my thoughts on the guy. But come on, I get ridiculed for my love for Harry Kane. Jack goes under the radar here. Everything about Emerson, it secretly just gets brought in, but no one ridicules him for the love that he has
subtle
for
manipulation.
For Harry Kane. You got to start getting on his back, guys. He's getting an easy ride here with his Emerson love.
Yeah, it's subtle mental manipulation is what I'm pulling off here.
We're going to call him the Emigo. That's who he is.
Nick Collison on the case. Spurs Squad said this is a 5-star Spurs stream. stream. Big up Irish, massive. Everybody, hopefully you did enjoy that stream. Do check out Ben over at Weird Time TV as well. I did see the Celso. I haven't seen the latest news update. So what's going on Weird Time TV, Ben? Is there maybe something I've missed in the last 10 hours or so?
Well, just trying to decompress the shit show that's going on at this football club, trying to bring you the news as and when. We actually did 2 updates today, one surrounding the sporting director and manager situation, and another one regarding a couple of players in and out the door. Tomorrow, we've got some good content coming out. We're going to be delving even deeper into these sporting directors that have been linked with Spurs. So we're going to be doing our research and finding all the information about what kind of players they like, what kind of systems they like to play. So we'll be trying to give you that kind of information tomorrow.
Nice. What are you so far, Tim, or you leaning towards the Thiago?
Not Thiago, no, the German geezer. I can't pronounce his name, so
Tim
we'll just call him the German geezer. Timmy
Werner. Dave, any last words for the Harris Army here before we wrap things up? And also as well, everybody do grab a membership for the podcast tomorrow too, because as always, there will be a special bonus clip for you guys. But Dave, any final words?
No, just stay safe. Don't let Tottenham ruin your week. And yeah, that's all I can say to people.
Easier said than done, Dave.
I know. The reality is, I say that we'll get off, and at 5 minutes past 8 for Brits and Romero will put out something that'll send us all down into chaos again. But look, try your best. Tottenham, it's sad to see what's going on. I hold the faith that we have to go through this shit, and one day we'll reach the top. You can share you can live like me, or you don't have to, but if you live like me, it's better. You get to ignore the reality sometimes. But make sure you stay tuned for tomorrow, the podcast coming up. We've got Amir on. Should be a good discussion with Amir. Massive thank you to Ben and to Ash for their time today, as well to Jacko for putting this together. I was out swanning around with one of my mates. So big up to Jack for putting the effort in and getting this together today. And guys, we'll see you all back here tomorrow.
We'll see you, everybody. Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs. And the Harris Army, we trust. See you, everybody.
Everywhere we go.